Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm Lisa from Down to Earth Gardening, and today we're dedicating the entire video to these gorgeous flowers, which are Rudbeckia, also known by a couple of other names: yellow oxeye, gloriosa daisy, and my favorite, black-eyed Susan. That's what I grew up calling them, and I feel like that's such a perfect name for these beautiful flowers here. So I want to talk a lot about them. You all know I like to talk about flowers, so in general terms, and then at the end I want to give you my favorite and most used Rudbeckia for the gardens. I've been using it for years and it's tried and true for me, and I'm hoping that it will be for you too. So for those of you joining me today, I'm in zone 6A, but many of you may have seen this flower growing natively because it is a native flower. It grows in the northern parts of the United States, mid-eastern, and occasionally you will see it naturalized out west. So I love native flowers and shrubs because what that means is they're very well adapted to lots of different environments. They do great on their own, which means that they're going to be so much easier for us in our home gardens. So lots of times they'll be drought tolerant and they don't need a lot of care. They're just all around hardy. So Black-eyed Susan, very hardy. One of my favorite things about them. They flower mid to late summer, and sometimes you'll see them go right into the fall. So a long-lasting flower, and I really love that. So right now it's getting towards the end of summer and they're in full bloom in my garden. They've reseeded themselves and I kind of let them do their thing and naturalize. But how beautiful are they? So you'll see them flowering on branched upright stems, and they have a yellow orange petal, and then they have the dark eye or cone in the center. That's why they're named the Black-eyed Susans, right? Very cheery, bright flower. And the pollinators love them. You'll probably I see some bees buzzing around. So they do provide some great food for the pollinators. And a lot of times I will just go ahead and leave the cones in the fall, right through the winter. So when the petals are gone, leave the cones for something going on in the garden, but also because that's the food for our winged friends here. So that's pretty great. But you do have the option of just cutting it right to the ground in the fall when they die back. So zones 3 to 4 through 9 is typically when you'll see them. Now the interesting thing about the Rudbeckia is there's different varieties. Some, depending on your zone, are annuals, some are biennials, so that means flower every other year, and others are perennials. So my favorite, perennial, because I love hardy perennials and just being able to rely on them to come up every year. So as far as conditions that you will see them in, you will see them in lots of different conditions, even natively. You'll see them in prairies and you'll see them in wetlands. So they're not really fussy as far as their soil. And in fact, I'm going to show you a little clip of a client that has a huge patch of Rudbeckia, huge, and they have the sandiest soil up here that I've ever seen. And the Black-eyed Susans growing profusely, reseeding themselves, and there's a huge, lovely patch of them. So not super fussy about their soil. They do prefer full sun. But with that said, I've also seen them in part shade as well. They look gorgeous with lots of other flowers. I love them with my daylilies. I love them with my Russian sage. They look really great with grasses. Because of the time that they flower, the grasses are really starting to shine, so they make a great companion planting for grasses. But they're going to give you some really lovely color when a lot of things start fading. So that's also pretty great. Now let's get down to it, and I want to share my favorite Rudbeckia with you. And it is called Gold Sturm. I've also see the letters transposed a little bit, and a lot of people will call it Goldstrom, and I've seen it online like that as well. So it does well in zones 3 through 9. I'm in 6A, and that's what I have here in my garden is the Goldstrom. I do plant this for clients so often if they ask for Rudbeckia, because it is so tried and true. Now when you purchase it, if you've watched my nursery tour where I give some tips on how to shop, and this would be one of the perennials that I wouldn't buy a lot of. So if you're going out to purchase some, I would just say at most buy 3 so you can make yourself a nice little group, because at one point I only planted about 3 to 5 in this garden, and they have made colonies and spread all over, and I've been known in the spring when they start popping up to move them around to other gardens or to give them away. So if you're just setting out to the nursery and you're going to buy some, go ahead and just buy a small amount, and you can buy a small container because they're so hardy, and you're going to have a lot of black-eyed Susans. So this one here gets roughly 2 to 3 feet tall, so it is a little bit on the taller side. I would normally put it towards the back or middle of the garden, but in my garden here, I really just let it do its thing and naturalize. It will also get almost 2 feet wide, but because it makes colonies, you can expect an explosion, so give it a lot of room, or just plan on moving the babies around in the early spring. So that's it, folks. This is such an easy one and a hot plant, and I enjoy it so much. I hope you enjoyed it as well, and I've given you some ideas for your own garden at home. So thank you so much for joining me. If you like this video, go ahead and tap like, and come on and grow with us and subscribe to our channel.